Whether you are a business owner, a podcaster, or a business podcaster, you need to resist the urge to do new projects. My name is Vince Quinn. I run a business where we produce podcasts for business owners. So as a podcaster, as a business owner, and as somebody who helps those people, I have done this myself, and I have seen it happen time and time again. Things do not get better. Things do not improve. And so what we're going to do now is talk about why that is. And I will give you some ways to harness that energy, right? That feeling inside you that's screaming, oh, we should do something new. We should do something else. Come on, let's do something new. We're going to harness that, and we're going to put it in a productive place that actually grows your podcast and grows your business. So I want to start with somebody that I met at a networking event a couple months back. Now, this guy had a podcast that was about something related to the law. And as we're starting to talk, he's like, yeah, I've been doing the show for a couple of years, like 3 years, 5 years, whatever. And as I've been doing it, I started to realize that I wasn't quite getting where I wanted to. And I had certain topics that I wanted to talk about, but it wasn't quite getting the traction that I wanted. So I decided to start a new show. And then like 2 minutes later, he's like, yeah, and from that, and then I decided to start a new show. And by the time I was done with this guy, I'm not lying. This is not an exaggeration. This is, I swear to God, absolutely true. He had 5 different shows that he built out of the same single show. And think about the nightmare that is, right? You have to plan 5 different shows, record 5 different shows, upload to 10 different platforms, right? Your podcast, wherever you're uploading that, YouTube and the video. You've got all of your social media channels. You need to promote those things. You're cutting clips for that. Like, it is a nightmare, right? And there's a lot of people that do this. They have that instinct. Again, I've done it myself, which is why I'm preaching this so hard. If you've ever thought maybe we should start a new thing, something different but related, like, unless you are massively successful and it is a natural extension of what you're already doing, do not do it. If you believe in the show that you have, if you believe in the business and the service you've got, like, do not do it. Keep it in one place. There's a couple of specific emotional reasons that people do this, right? Have this instinct. So I want to cover those things, right? I think part of it is podcasts are a long haul format. You're doing this over time. You're not expected to do something and go insanely viral off of a single episode. And what do you know? You've gone from 0 to 100,000 subscribers. Everybody loves you. Like, it just doesn't really work like that, right? So you're building this thing over time, and a lot of people get impatient. It's not going as fast. It's not as big. And so you go, well, it's fine and it's good enough. So while I'm waiting for this to get bigger, I'm going to put my time on this other show and start to grow that. And then I'll have 2 great shows. But what another problem is here is that there's an overconfidence that comes with that, right? If you're so in the belief that your show is so great, even though nobody's listening to it, or it's not going at the level that you think, it's not growing as much as you thought, then how are you so confident that putting your time into a completely different second show on top of everything else in your life, how are you so confident that that original show is going to get better? Because I guarantee you it won't. Right? You're more attracted to this new thing. And now, oh, well, I get to design logos again, and I get to build this new feed and come up with a fun name and the new format. And you know what I mean? Like, you get it's all distraction. It all takes away. And you're not, unless you are, again, a just absolutely loaded, bona fide professional, and your business is killing it, your show is killing it, you should not be so confident to believe that you can do 2 shows, 3 shows, 4 shows, 5 shows, however many shows, and anybody's going to give a damn, or they're going to go anywhere. Another thing is, for people who decide to start a new show, one of the things might be, you don't have a goal. When you don't define what the show is or what you actually want it to do, you just started the show and you've been doing it for a while, and maybe you've been doing it for a couple of years now, right? Like, okay, that's all well and good, but now what? Well, you never knew at the beginning. You didn't know a year in. You didn't know 2 years in. You have no idea now. So if you don't know where it's going, then maybe your thought is, well, I've been doing this and it's fine, but like you haven't driven yourself to go anywhere. So naturally, you're going to find something new, right? And hope that eventually sorts itself out over time. But if you don't have a goal, it's not going to get better. So 5 shows without a goal is way worse than having 1 show without a goal. Figure out what your goal is, right? Maybe you want to start a new show not because you don't have a goal, but it's because you have that goal, but you don't know how to get there from your current situation. So you've got a show, you've been doing it, you're getting traction on social, you have a following, right? Like things are cool, they're good, they're not great. And you want to make that leap. You want to get to the next level. But you've tried a couple of things and it hasn't quite worked. And now you're just out of ideas. You're totally stumped. You, anybody else that's working on the show, like you just don't know where to go or what to do. And so because of that, you say, well, the show is good enough and let me start another one, right? Like again, it's you're ignoring the problem. It's a distraction more than a solution. And so I think that bears itself to the final reason that I've seen this where people have started a show and then started multiple shows or multiple businesses or multiple services. Deep down, you don't want to do it. And that's okay. Like people look at that and think, oh my God, this is a failure. Like I don't want to do this thing that I put time into. But how would you know? Unless you do it. Like you have to do things. You have to try stuff. You have to experiment with things. That's what makes you better. It gives you skills. It gives you perspective. It gives you options. And at the same time, closing a door can make your life simpler. Because now you're not wondering what if as you're doing other things. You've done it, you've been there, you've experienced it, you know you're good, and now you can go on to the next thing. But if you're not willing to admit that that's why you're moving on to the next thing, then you're keeping around this zombie show or this zombie business or zombie service just because you don't want to admit that you don't want to do it anymore. Give yourself the relief. You will be so much better off. It will feel so much better day in and day out to not have to do that thing because you just don't want to do it anymore. So why do 3 different shows when you don't like 2 of them? Just get rid of the shows. You'll be fine. You don't want to do it. So, like, these are all these different reasons why you wouldn't want to stay with the same show and why people tend to build out all these different shows, these different businesses, these different services, right? It's this distracted kind of energy. Well, what you need to do with that energy is obsess on what you are doing. First, get better at what you do, right? Just all the things that are going into your current show as it is, your current business as it is. What are the things you've got? What do you do well? What can you get better at? Even, good things, bad things, indifferent things. How do you improve those? As a podcaster, how do you be a better host? How do you come up with better topics? How are you more engaging? How does that translate on your social media? How do you get a better footer? Do you have chapters in your shows? Do you have good descriptions for your shows? The right kind of tags? Are you converting people in any way or driving them anywhere in the way that you mean to? If you are doing that, what is your rate? How often are you closing? How are you tracking those people? How can you improve those things, right? I just rattled off like 30 things. And that's all stuff that you can do on your own show that already exists. Do you have that kind of mastery on every single thing? Probably not, right? Like this is all about evolution and growth over time. So when you're feeling like, okay, I want to start another show, instead, take that energy and improve the stuff that you've got. Do self-scouting. And in the same way, one of the things that you can do instead of starting a new project is add or remove elements to your existing show. You've scouted it, you know what it looks like, and you can say, all right, well, we've been doing this for a long time, and we've believed that talking about these certain topics, it was going to be really beneficial to us. Did it work? Oh, it was great. Okay, awesome. Let's do that all the time. Let's make sure, okay, what didn't work or what doesn't work as good as the other things, right? How do we come up with something else that gets on the same tier as everything else we do? You always want to top yourself. You always want to push that new limit and get better. So how do you cut the stuff that doesn't work as well as the stuff that really does? That's what you should be doing. And as you figure all of this out, you self-scout, and then you're adding new elements and removing bad elements, then increase the volume of it, right? If you're thinking, well, this show is doing great, it's really good, and everything's fine, and I'm happy with it, and, now because of that, let me go start another show, do 2 episodes of the same show, right? Like do 2 in a week if you're doing 1. Up the volume, give people more, extend the show, do bonus segments, do paid segments, like whatever it's going to be, find something that adds on top of the thing that you've already built. It is new, right? It is slightly different. It's a new thing to learn. It's a new thing to master. It's a new thing to incorporate, to introduce to your audience or your customers. Like add that new thing, but that gives you the growth, right? That's the way to harness that energy and put it in a place that builds on something that you've got, because the advantage is you have obsessed on those details more than other people around you. You've built an expertise and a mastery that they do not have, and the more that you talk, the more that you do your thing, the more evident that is, right? Like I have a friend who, he is a fantastic cook, just casual. He's not a professional chef. He's just a great cook, right? And he can make all sorts of different dishes from any kind of country. He's got all these crazy ingredients in his house. I went over there once, and he had brought a knife over to my place. He had done some cooking and left a chef's knife at my apartment. So the next time I saw him, I was going to bring it over. And when I mentioned to him that I'd forgotten to bring the knife, he goes, well, it's really not a big deal. It's my 4th favorite knife. And I'm like, 4th? It's your 4th favorite knife? I don't know if I've ever thought about my favorite knife, let alone my 2nd or 3rd or 4th. And he had all these opinions about why it was his 4th favorite knife compared to the other 3 knives, right? He has spent a lot of time cooking. He's done it in a very purposeful way. He wanted to make sure that it was great. He had opinions on every tool that he used, all the different kinds of pans and salts and other ingredients, and it includes the knives. And he could just, without any thought, say that it was his 4th favorite knife. Like, you can have that kind of expertise for the things that you do, for the parts of your show, the reasons you do things that are for your topics, for your poll questions, for things that are lead capture related, like whatever it might be, go and master that. So again, all of that is to say that as much as you might have this energy all the time to start new shows, or you have started new shows and all these different businesses or whatever, like simplify all of that. Be honest with yourself about what you actually want to do and what you don't, or what you have answers for and what you don't, and go put that energy back in. Put it back where it matters, and you will be so much better off. That's it for now. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're tuning into the show. And if you'd like to have us work on your podcast, go to sbxproductions.com and book an appointment.